Caitlin Clark had always been a name that resonated with excellence, determination, and heart. A rising basketball star, she was known for her unmatched skills on the court and her ability to inspire those around her. But Caitlin wasn't just about sports. She carried a deep sense of gratitude for the people and places that shaped her journey. After completing her college degree, Caitlin decided to return to her hometown, a small, quiet town where life moved slower, but memories ran deeper. It was here, amidst familiar streets and faces, that Caitlin found herself reminiscing about the past. One crisp autumn afternoon, Caitlin decided to visit her old high school. The building hadn't changed much since she graduated. The same faded lockers lined the walls. The gymnasium still smelled faintly of polished wood, and the classrooms buzzed with the chatter of students eager to learn. As Caitlin walked through the hallways, she felt a wave of nostalgia wash over her. She remembered the countless hours spent practicing free throws in the gym, studying late into the night in the library, and laughing with friends during lunch breaks. Everything felt comforting, like slipping into an old pair of shoes. But as Caitlin turned a corner, something, or rather someone, caught her attention. At the far end of the corridor, she saw a figure pushing a mop across the tiled floor. The man moved slowly but steadily, his back slightly bent from years of hard work. His hair was silver now, almost white, and his hands were calloused and worn. Caitlin squinted, trying to place the face, and then it hit her. It was Mr. Harold Jenkins, the janitor who had been a fixture at the school for as long as she could remember. Mr. Jenkins had always been there, quietly going about his duties, ensuring the school remained clean and welcoming. Caitlin recalled how he would greet everyone with a warm smile, no matter how busy or tired he seemed. He was the kind of person who didn't demand attention, but earned respect simply by being present and reliable. Back when Caitlin was a student, she often passed him in the hallways without giving him much thought. To her, he was just the janitor, someone whose job was to keep things in order while the rest of them focused on their studies and dreams. But now, standing there as an adult, Caitlin realized how much she had taken his presence for granted. Curiosity tugged at her, and Caitlin approached him. "Mr. Jenkins?" she called out softly, not wanting to startle him. The man paused mid-mop and looked up, his eyes widening in recognition. "Caitlin Clark," he exclaimed, his voice filled with warmth. "Is that really you? My goodness, look at you. You've grown into such a fine young woman." Caitlin smiled, feeling a mix of pride and humility at his words. "It's good to see you too, Mr. Jenkins. I was just thinking about how much this place hasn't changed." She gestured around the hallway, taking in the familiar sights. "Though I must admit, I didn't expect to see you here. Are you still working?" Mr. Jenkins chuckled, leaning on his mop handle as if to rest for a moment. "Still working? Of course I am. This place is my second home, Caitlin. I couldn't imagine leaving it behind." His tone was light, but there was a hint of sadness. Beneath the surface, something Caitlin couldn't quite put her finger on. As they stood there chatting, Caitlin noticed the lines etched deeply into Mr. Jenkins's face. His movements were slower now, and his hands trembled slightly as he adjusted his grip on the mop. It dawned on her that he must be much older than she'd ever considered. "How long have you been working here, Mr. Jenkins?" she asked, genuinely curious. He tilted his head as if counting the years in his mind. "Oh, let me think. I started here in 1982. That makes it—" He paused, doing the math. 41 years, give or take. Time flies when you're busy, doesn't it? Caitlin's jaw dropped. 41 years? That's incredible. She tried to process the number, realizing that Mr. Jenkins must be well into his 80s. "You're 80, aren't you?" she asked gently. He nodded, a wistful smile playing on his lips. 82, actually. But don't let the age fool you. I'm still spry enough to get the job done." Caitlin felt a pang of admiration mixed with concern. 82 years old, and he was still showing up every day to clean floors and empty trash cans. Most people his age would have retired decades ago, enjoying their golden years surrounded by family or pursuing hobbies they never had time for. Yet here was Mr. Jenkins, dedicating himself to a task that few people noticed or appreciated. It made Caitlin wonder, what kept him going? Was it love for the school, a sense of duty, or perhaps something deeper? Their conversation continued, and Caitlin learned more about Mr. Jenkins's life. He spoke fondly of his late wife Evelyn, who used to teach art at the school before passing away 10 years earlier. "She loved this place as much as I do," he said, his voice softening. "We both believed in the power of education and giving kids a chance to dream big." He also mentioned his passion for gardening, a hobby he picked up after retiring from his first career as a mechanic. "There's something magical about planting a seed and watching it grow," he explained. "It reminds me that life goes on no matter what." Listening to him, Caitlin couldn't help but feel a swell of emotion. Here was a man who had devoted his entire life to serving others, yet he remained humble and unassuming. He didn't seek recognition or praise. He simply did what he believed was right. And yet, despite his tireless efforts, Caitlin suspected that very few people truly understood the depth of his sacrifice. How many students walked past him every day without even saying hello? How many teachers failed to acknowledge the role he played in creating a comfortable environment for learning? The thought saddened her, but it also ignited a spark of determination within her. Before leaving, Caitlin promised herself that she wouldn't forget this encounter. There was something extraordinary about Mr. Jenkins, something worth exploring further. Little did she know, this chance meeting would set off a chain of events that would change not only his life, but the entire community's. All it took was one person willing to pause, listen, and care. Over the next few weeks, Caitlin found herself thinking about Mr. Jenkins more often than she expected. His quiet dedication and unwavering commitment to the school stayed with her, lingering in her mind like a melody she couldn't shake. She realized that while everyone knew who he was, very few people truly knew him. He existed in the background of their lives, always present but rarely acknowledged. Caitlin decided then and there that she wanted to change that, not just for herself but for everyone who had ever crossed paths with him. Determined to learn more about the man behind the mop, Caitlin began visiting the school regularly. At first, she didn't tell anyone why she was coming back so frequently. To the casual observer, it might have seemed like she was simply reminiscing about her high school days. But those who paid closer attention noticed how she always sought out Mr. Jenkins. Whether he was mopping floors, fixing a broken chair, or watering plants near the entrance, Caitlin made it a point to strike up conversations with him. Slowly but surely, she began piecing together fragments of his life story. Mr. Jenkins, though initially surprised by Caitlin's interest, welcomed her curiosity with open arms. He wasn't used to being the center of attention, but something about Caitlin's genuine enthusiasm put him at ease. Over time, he opened up to her in ways he hadn't done with anyone else. He shared stories about his childhood growing up on a small farm outside town, where he learned the value of hard work from an early age. "My parents taught me that no job is too small if it helps someone," he told her one afternoon as they sat on a bench outside the school. "That lesson stuck with me my whole life." He also spoke fondly of Evelyn, his late wife, whose memory still brought both joy and sorrow to his eyes. Caitlin listened intently as he described their life together. The laughter, the struggles, and the love that sustained them through thick and thin. "Evelyn was my rock," he said softly. "She believed in me even when I doubted myself. After she passed, I threw myself into work because it gave me purpose. This school became my second family." As their bond deepened, Caitlin discovered another side of Mr. Jenkins, one that went beyond his role as a janitor. He was a natural storyteller, weaving tales of wisdom and humor that left Caitlin laughing one moment and reflecting deeply the next. He had a knack for finding beauty in the mundane, whether it was noticing the way sunlight streamed through the windows in the morning, or marveling at the resilience of a weed growing through a crack in the pavement. "Life is full of little miracles," he once remarked. "You just have to look for them." One day, as they chatted during his lunch break, Caitlin asked him a question that had been on her mind for some time. "Mr. Jenkins," she began hesitantly, "why do you keep working here? You've given so much of your life to this school. Don't you ever feel like it's time to slow down?" For a moment, Mr. Jenkins was silent. He stared off into the distance, his expression thoughtful. Then, with a sigh, he replied, "I suppose part of me wonders what else I'd do if I stopped working. For 41 years, this place has been my anchor. It's where I belong, but—" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "But lately, I've been thinking about leaving behind something bigger than myself, something that will last long after I'm gone." Caitlin leaned forward, intrigued. "What do you mean?" she asked. "Well," he said, a flicker of excitement lighting up his eyes, "I've always loved gardening. There's something about nurturing plants, watching them grow and thrive. It gives me hope. I've dreamed of starting a community garden, a place where people can come together to grow food, share stories, and connect with nature. But I never thought it was possible. Who would listen to an old man like me?" His words struck a chord in Caitlin. Here was a man who had spent decades taking care of others, yet he still harbored dreams of his own. Dreams that, until now, he had kept hidden away, believing they were too big or impractical. Caitlin felt a surge of determination rise within her. If anyone deserved to see their dream come true, it was Mr. Jenkins. From that moment on, Caitlin made it her mission to help him turn his vision into reality. She started by reaching out to former classmates, teachers, and other members of the community. Through social media posts, phone calls, and personal visits, she shared snippets of Mr. Jenkins's story, his decades of service, his humility, and his unfulfilled dream of creating a community garden. At first, responses were slow, but as word spread, people began to take notice. Many recalled fond memories of interacting with Mr. Jenkins over the years, realizing how much he had quietly contributed to their lives. Others were moved by his selflessness and expressed a desire to help. Soon, Caitlin found herself leading an informal group of volunteers eager to support Mr. Jenkins's dream. They brainstormed ideas, drafted plans, and scouted potential locations for the garden. One member suggested organizing a fundraising event to raise money for the project, while another offered to contact local businesses for donations of tools, seeds, and materials. Caitlin coordinated everything, ensuring that each step aligned with Mr. Jenkins's vision. Despite her busy schedule as a professional athlete, she poured her energy into making this happen, driven by a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in a long time. Throughout the process, Caitlin kept Mr. Jenkins updated, though she deliberately avoided revealing the full scope of what they were planning. She didn't want to get his hopes up too soon, especially since there were still challenges to overcome. But every time she visited him, she could see the spark of curiosity growing brighter in his eyes. He began asking questions about the sudden influx of visitors to the school and the whispered conversations in the hallways. Caitlin simply smiled and told him, "Just wait. Something special is coming your way." Meanwhile, Caitlin continued to spend time with Mr. Jenkins, soaking in the lessons he unknowingly imparted. He taught her the importance of patience, not just in gardening but in life itself. "You can't rush growth," he explained one afternoon as they walked around the school grounds. "Plants need time to develop strong roots before they can bloom. People are the same. We all go through seasons of preparation before we're ready to shine." He also emphasized the value of gratitude, reminding Caitlin to appreciate the small things in life. "It's easy to focus on what we lack," he said. "But if you train yourself to notice what you already have, you'll find happiness everywhere you look." These insights resonated deeply with Caitlin, who had spent much of her life chasing goals and accolades. For the first time, she began to understand that success wasn't just about achievements, it was about connection, meaning, and leaving a positive impact on the world. As the weeks passed, the pieces of the puzzle slowly fell into place. The community rallied around the idea of a garden, donating funds, supplies, and labor. Local officials approved the use of a vacant lot near the school, transforming it into fertile ground for Mr. Jenkins's dream. Volunteers worked tirelessly to clear debris, till soil, and build raised beds. Caitlin coordinated logistics, secured sponsorships, and ensured that everyone involved felt valued and appreciated. What had started as a simple conversation between two people had blossomed into a movement that united an entire town. Yet despite all the progress, Caitlin knew the most important part was yet to come. Surprising Mr. Jenkins with the culmination of everyone's efforts. She envisioned the look on his face when he realized that his dream wasn't just a distant hope, it was becoming real. With each passing day, anticipation built, not only for Caitlin, but for everyone involved. They weren't just building a garden, they were honoring a man who had quietly shaped countless lives without expecting anything in return. And so, as autumn gave way to winter and the first frost blanketed the ground, Caitlin prepared for the final chapter of this journey. Little did Mr. Jenkins know the seeds of change had already been planted, and they were about to sprout in ways he could never have imagined. The day of the surprise event arrived, and Caitlin was a bundle of nerves. Weeks of planning, coordinating, and rallying the community had led to this moment, and she wanted everything to be perfect. The gymnasium at the high school had been transformed into a vibrant celebration space, filled with banners, photos, and heartfelt messages dedicated to Mr. Jenkins. Tables lined the walls, adorned with flowers, candles, and framed pictures of him through the years, some showing him mopping floors, others capturing candid moments with students and teachers. Posters bearing quotes like "Thank you, Mr. Jenkins," and "A legacy of kindness" hung proudly above the bleachers. Caitlin had spent hours ensuring every detail reflected the gratitude and admiration people felt for him. She even created a slideshow featuring video clips and written testimonials from those whose lives he had touched. Former students spoke about how his encouraging words helped them through tough times. Teachers shared stories of his quiet wisdom and unwavering support. Even parents chimed in, recalling how he always greeted their children with a smile, making them feel safe and welcome. It was clear that Mr. Jenkins wasn't just a janitor. He was a pillar of the community, someone who had shaped countless lives without ever seeking recognition. As the evening approached, Caitlin stood near the entrance, watching as guests began to arrive. The turnout was overwhelming. Hundreds of people streamed into the gym, eager to celebrate the man they had come to admire so deeply. There were former classmates Caitlin hadn't seen in years, retired teachers who remembered Mr. Jenkins fondly, and local residents who simply wanted to show their appreciation. Some brought homemade dishes to share, while others carried potted plants or bouquets of flowers as tokens of thanks. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement, laughter, and heartfelt conversation. Mr. Jenkins, however, remained blissfully unaware of what awaited him. Earlier that afternoon, Caitlin had casually invited him to stop by the school for a quick meeting. He agreed, though he seemed puzzled by her insistence. "What kind of meeting?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. Caitlin shrugged nonchalantly. "Just something small, nothing fancy." When Mr. Jenkins finally walked into the gymnasium that evening, he froze in his tracks. For a moment he stood there, blinking in disbelief as the crowd erupted into applause. Everyone rose to their feet, clapping and cheering, their faces glowing with admiration. Banners swayed gently overhead, and the air was thick with emotion. Tears welled up in Mr. Jenkins's eyes as he took it all in. The sea of smiling faces, the decorations, the palpable sense of love and gratitude surrounding him. Caitlin stepped forward, her heart pounding as she guided him to the center of the room. "Mr. Jenkins," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "This is for you. We couldn't let another day pass without telling you how much you mean to us. All of us." She gestured to the crowd, which responded with another round of thunderous applause. Overwhelmed, Mr. Jenkins struggled to find words. I don't know what to say," he stammered, his voice choked with emotion. "This is more than I ever expected." He looked around the room, taking in the familiar faces and heartfelt expressions. Many of the people present were ones he had known for decades, students he had watched grow up, teachers he had supported, and friends he had cherished. And yet here they were, standing together to honor him. After a few moments, Caitlin handed him a microphone, inviting him to speak. Mr. Jenkins hesitated, visibly moved by the outpouring of affection. Finally, he cleared his throat and began to talk. "For 41 years, I've come to this school every day because I believed in its mission," he said, his voice steady despite the tears glistening in his eyes. But tonight I realize that it's not just about the building or the work, it's about the people. You've all made my life richer than I could have imagined. His words resonated deeply, drawing murmurs of agreement from the audience. Caitlin listened intently, her chest swelling with pride. As Mr. Jenkins continued speaking, she glanced around the room, noticing how everyone hung on his every word. People nodded, smiled, and wiped away tears, clearly touched by his sincerity. It struck her then how rare it was to see someone like Mr. Jenkins, a person who gave so much yet asked for so little in return. In that moment, Caitlin knew she had done the right thing by organizing this event. This wasn't just a celebration of one man's contributions. It was a reminder of the power of kindness and the impact one individual can have on an entire community. Once Mr. Jenkins finished speaking, Caitlin took the stage again, this time to unveil the next phase of the plan. "We're not done yet," she announced, her tone playful but earnest. "Tonight isn't just about saying thank you, it's about giving back." With that, she revealed the details of the fund they had created in Mr. Jenkins' name. Donations had poured in from across the town, enough to ensure his financial stability in retirement and provide resources to bring his dream of a community garden to life. The crowd erupted into cheers once more, and Mr. Jenkins looked genuinely stunned. "A garden?" he repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. "You're serious?" Caitlin nodded, her eyes shining with excitement. "Absolutely. We've already secured the land, and volunteers are ready to help. All we need is your guidance." Tears streamed down Mr. Jenkins' face as he absorbed the enormity of what Caitlin and the community had accomplished. "I never dreamed." He trailed off, shaking his head in disbelief. "This is more than I could have hoped for." The rest of the evening unfolded in a whirlwind of joy and connection. Guests mingled, sharing stories about Mr. Jenkins and expressing their gratitude. Children ran around laughing while adults reminisced about old times. Someone played soft music in the background, adding to the warm, celebratory ambiance. Food tables groaned under the weight of homemade dishes, and the scent of freshly baked pies wafted through the air. It was a night no one would soon forget. Testament to the bonds that unite communities when they come together for a shared purpose. As the event drew to a close, Caitlin found herself sitting beside Mr. Jenkins on a bench near the exit. Both were exhausted but exhilarated, basking in the afterglow of such a meaningful evening. "So," Caitlin said, nudging him gently, "what do you think? Ready to trade in your mop for a trowel?" Mr. Jenkins chuckled, shaking his head in amazement. "I suppose I'll have to get used to the idea," he admitted. "But honestly, Caitlin, none of this would have happened without you. Thank you for believing in me, for seeing something in me that I didn't even see myself." Caitlin smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment wash over her. "It's not me, Mr. Jenkins, it's everyone here. You inspired us all. Now it's your turn to inspire the world, with flowers, vegetables, and maybe a few weeds along the way." They shared a laugh, the sound echoing softly in the quiet hallway. As they sat there, surrounded by the echoes of celebration, Caitlin realized something profound. Helping Mr. Jenkins achieve his dream wasn't just about creating a garden. It was about planting seeds of hope, resilience, and unity within the community. Seeds that would continue to grow long after the last shovel hit the dirt. And so, as the final guests departed and the lights dimmed in the gymnasium, Caitlin felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had started this journey hoping to honor Mr. Jenkins, but in doing so, she had discovered something equally valuable, a deeper understanding of the importance of gratitude, connection, and giving back. Little did she know, this was only the beginning of a transformation that would ripple through the town, touching hearts and changing lives in ways no one could have anticipated. In the weeks following the surprise event, life in the small town began to shift in subtle but significant ways. The idea of a community garden had sparked something within people, a renewed sense of purpose and connection that went beyond just planting seeds in the soil. What started as a tribute to Mr. Jenkins quickly evolved into a collective effort to create something lasting, something that would benefit not only him, but everyone who called the town home. Caitlin wasted no time diving into the planning process. She worked closely with Mr. Jenkins, local volunteers, and town officials to bring the garden to life. Together, they visited the vacant lot near the school that had been earmarked for the project. It was an overgrown patch of land overrun with weeds and litter, but Caitlin could see its potential. "This is perfect," she said, her eyes scanning the space. "With some work, it'll be beautiful." Mr. Jenkins nodded, his excitement palpable. "I can already picture it," he said, gesturing toward different sections of the lot. "Over here we could plant vegetables, tomatoes, peppers, squash, and over there maybe flowers to attract pollinators. We could even set up benches so people have a place to sit and enjoy the view." Caitlin grinned, thrilled to see him taking charge. "Let's make it happen," she replied. Over the next few days they mapped out a detailed plan, dividing the lot into zones for fruits, vegetables, herbs, and flowers. They also designated areas for communal activities, such as workshops on sustainable gardening and cooking demonstrations, using produce harvested from the garden. Every decision was made with input from Mr. Jenkins, ensuring that the final design reflected his vision. The transformation of the lot required hard work, and the entire community pitched in. Volunteers arrived in droves, eager to help clear debris till the soil and build raised beds. Some brought tools, others contributed plants or offered their expertise. Local businesses donated materials like mulch, compost, and fencing, while schools organized field trips so students could learn about sustainability firsthand. Even children joined in, enthusiastically digging holes and scattering seeds under the watchful eyes of adults. For Mr. Jenkins, this phase of the project was both exhilarating and emotional. After decades of working behind the scenes, he found himself at the forefront of something extraordinary. People approached him constantly, seeking advice or simply thanking him for his inspiration. "You're making magic happen," one volunteer told him as they worked side by side, filling planters with soil. Mr. Jenkins smiled, humbled by the praise. "It's not me. It's all of us," he replied. "A garden needs many hands to grow." As the weeks passed, the once neglected lot began to take shape. Rows of seedlings sprouted from the earth, reaching skyward as if determined to reclaim their place in the world. Brightly painted signs marked each section of the garden, bearing names like Harold's Haven and Evelyn's Patch, the latter dedicated to Mr. Jenkins' late wife. Caitlin insisted on including Evelyn's name, knowing how much she meant to him. "She'd be proud of what you're doing," Caitlin said softly one afternoon as they stood before the flower bed named in her honor. Mr. Jenkins nodded, tears glistening in his eyes. "She always loved gardens," he murmured. "This feels right." Despite the progress, challenges arose along the way. Weather fluctuations tested the resilience of young plants, requiring extra care and attention. Supplies occasionally ran low, forcing Caitlin and her team to get creative with solutions. There were moments of frustration when things didn't go as planned. Seeds failed to germinate, pests nibbled away at tender leaves, or equipment broke down unexpectedly. But through it all, the community remained steadfast, united by a shared goal. One particularly memorable setback occurred during a sudden storm that battered the town overnight. When Caitlin and Mr. Jenkins arrived at the site the next morning, they discovered several newly planted saplings uprooted and scattered across the muddy ground. For a moment, disappointment hung heavy in the air. But then, without saying a word, Mr. Jenkins knelt beside the damaged plants and began gently replanting them. His calm determination inspired others to join in, and soon the entire group was working together to repair the damage. By midday, the garden looked almost as good as it had before the storm. Through these experiences, Caitlin marveled at how the garden became more than just a physical space. It was a symbol of perseverance, collaboration, and hope. Watching people come together to overcome obstacles reminded her of the power of unity. "We're stronger when we work as a team," she often remarked during meetings. "This garden isn't just about growing food, it's about growing relationships." As spring gave way to summer, the garden flourished. Tomatoes turned red under the sun, zucchini vines sprawled across trellises, and marigolds burst into vibrant blooms. Bees buzzed lazily among the flowers while butterflies danced gracefully above the greenery. Families gathered regularly to tend to their plots, sharing tips, laughter, and stories. Neighbors who had never spoken before now exchanged greetings and recipes, forging friendships that extended beyond the garden gates. For Mr. Jenkins, the garden represented a new chapter in his life, no longer confined to the hallways of the school. He spent his days outdoors, surrounded by nature and people who appreciated his wisdom. He taught classes on composting, hosted storytelling sessions beneath the shade trees, and mentored young gardeners eager to learn. Children adored him, calling him Grandpa Harold and trailing after him wherever he went. Caitlin often caught glimpses of him crouched beside a child, patiently explaining how to transplant seedlings or identify beneficial insects. His patience and kindness shone brighter than ever, reminding everyone why they had rallied around him in the first place. The impact of the garden rippled outward, touching lives far beyond those directly involved. Local families struggling to put food on the table received fresh produce harvested from the communal plots. Teachers incorporated the garden into their lesson plans, teaching students about biology, ecology, and nutrition. Even tourists passing through the town stopped to admire the vibrant oasis, snapping photos and leaving with baskets of freshly picked vegetables purchased from a small stand set up near the entrance. Word of the project spread, drawing media attention from nearby cities. Reporters interviewed Caitlin and Mr. Jenkins, shining a spotlight on the story of a humble janitor whose dream had transformed an entire community. Articles appeared in newspapers, videos aired on local news channels, and social media posts celebrating Harold's Haven went viral. Inspired by the success, other towns began launching similar initiatives, proving that one person's vision could spark change far beyond their immediate surroundings. Amidst all the excitement, Caitlin took a step back to reflect on how much had changed since her initial visit to the high school. What began as a simple conversation with Mr. Jenkins had grown into something monumental, a testament to the power of gratitude, collaboration, and belief in someone's potential. She realized that helping him achieve his dream hadn't just enriched his life. It had deepened her own understanding of what truly matters: connection, purpose, and the ability to leave a positive mark on the world. One balmy evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Caitlin joined Mr. Jenkins on a bench overlooking the thriving garden. Fireflies flickered in the twilight, casting a magical glow over rows of flourishing plants. It's hard to believe this all started with a conversation in the hallway, Caitlin mused, breaking the peaceful silence. Mr. Jenkins chuckled, leaning back with a contented sigh. Life has a funny way of surprising us, he said. I never imagined I'd be sitting here watching something I dreamed of become real. And it's all because of you, Caitlin. She shook her head, smiling. Not just me. Everyone played a part. You planted the seed and the rest of us helped it grow. They sat in companionable silence for a while, absorbing the beauty of the moment. Somewhere in the distance, laughter echoed, a family enjoying dinner made from ingredients harvested earlier that day. Birds chirped softly, settling into their nests for the night. The garden hummed with life, a living testament to the power of dreams nurtured by love and community. As Caitlin glanced at Mr. Jenkins, she noticed a profound sense of peace in his expression. Gone was the weariness that had once shadowed his features. In its place was a quiet joy, a fulfillment that came from knowing he had left behind something meaningful. Though he might no longer be cleaning floors or emptying trash cans, his legacy lived on, not in the walls of the school, but in the hearts of everyone whose lives he had touched. And yet, Caitlin knew this wasn't the end. The garden would continue to evolve, just as the people tending it would grow and change. New challenges would arise, new ideas would emerge, and the cycle of planting and harvesting would repeat itself year after year. But one thing was certain: the spirit of generosity and kindness that had brought them all together would endure. nourishing not only the soil but the soul of the community. For now, though, Caitlin allowed herself to savor the present, the warmth of friendship, the satisfaction of a job well done, and the promise of brighter days ahead. As she rose to leave, she patted Mr. Jenkins lightly on the shoulder. "See you tomorrow, Grandpa Harold," she teased, grinning. As summer rolled into fall, the community garden, now affectionately known as Harold's Haven, had become a cornerstone of the town. It wasn't just a place to grow food. It was a hub of activity, connection, and transformation. Every day brought new visitors, from curious families exploring its winding paths to seasoned gardeners swapping tips on pest control. The air buzzed with conversation, laughter, and the occasional hum of bees flitting between blossoms. For Mr. Jenkins, who had spent decades working quietly in the background, stepping into this role felt like stepping into sunlight after years of shadow. Caitlin visited regularly, balancing her professional basketball commitments with her growing passion for the project. Though she traveled frequently for games and training, Harold's Haven remained close to her heart. Whenever she returned home, she made it a point to check in on Mr. Jenkins and lend a hand wherever needed. Their friendship deepened with each passing week, built on mutual respect and shared purpose. Caitlin admired his resilience and wisdom, while Mr. Jenkins appreciated her energy, vision, and unwavering support. One crisp October morning, Caitlin arrived at the garden early, eager to help prepare for an upcoming harvest festival. As she walked through the gates, she spotted Mr. Jenkins kneeling beside a pumpkin patch, carefully inspecting the orange gourds for signs of ripeness. "Morning, Grandpa Harold," she called out cheerfully, waving as she approached. He looked up, his face lighting up with a smile. "Well, if it isn't my favorite gardener," he teased, brushing dirt off his hands. "What brings you here so early?" "I wanted to see how things are coming along for the festival," Caitlin replied, crouching beside him to examine the pumpkins. "These look amazing, by the way. Did you grow them yourself?" Mr. Jenkins nodded proudly. "With a little help from some friends," he said, gesturing toward a group of volunteers nearby. They were busy stringing fairy lights between trees and arranging hay bales around the perimeter of the garden. The scene was alive with anticipation, everyone working together to create something special. The Harvest Festival was shaping up to be one of the biggest events the town had seen in years. Local musicians had agreed to perform, food trucks lined up to serve seasonal dishes, and artisans prepared handmade crafts to sell. Children planned to carve jack-o'-lanterns, while adults could participate in workshops on preserving produce or making natural dyes from flowers. At the center of it all stood Harold's Haven, a living testament to what could be achieved when people came together for a common cause. For Mr. Jenkins, the festival represented more than just a celebration of autumn. It was an opportunity to showcase the garden's impact and inspire others to follow suit. He envisioned towns across the country creating similar spaces where communities could connect, learn, and thrive. Caitlin shared his enthusiasm, using her platform as a rising sports star to spread the word about the event. She posted updates on social media, gave interviews to reporters, and encouraged fans to visit the garden during their travels. On the day of the festival, the atmosphere crackled with excitement. Families poured into the garden, marveling at the vibrant displays of pumpkins, sunflowers, and kaleidoscopic zinnias. Booths offering fresh cider, caramel apples, and homemade pies drew long lines while children squealed with delight as they chased butterflies and played hide-and-seek among the rows of plants. Everywhere Caitlin turned, she saw smiles, on faces young and old, familiar and new. Mr. Jenkins stood near the entrance, greeting visitors with his trademark warmth. A badge pinned to his jacket read, "Head Gardener," a title bestowed upon him by the organizing committee. Caitlin caught sight of him chatting animatedly with a group of tourists, pointing out different sections of the garden and sharing stories about its creation. Watching him in his element filled her with pride. This was a man who had once blended into the background, content to serve silently. Now he commanded attention, not because he sought it, but because his kindness and dedication demanded recognition. Throughout the day, Caitlin moved between tasks, ensuring everything ran smoothly. She helped set up tables, handed out flyers, and even joined a local band on stage for an impromptu performance. Her presence electrified the crowd, drawing cheers and applause whenever she stepped into view. Yet despite the spotlight, Caitlin never lost sight of why she was there, to celebrate Mr. Jenkins and everything he had accomplished. As evening fell, the festivities culminated in a lantern-lit ceremony honoring Mr. Jenkins's contributions. Hundreds of glowing lanterns hung from tree branches, casting a golden hue over the garden. Caitlin took the stage, her voice steady yet emotional as she addressed the crowd. Tonight, we gather not only to celebrate the beauty of this garden, but also to honor the man who made it possible, she began, gesturing toward Mr. Jenkins, who sat in the front row surrounded by loved ones. Mr. Jenkins taught us that no act of kindness is too small, no dream too big. He showed us the power of patience, perseverance, and believing in something greater than ourselves. The audience erupted into applause, rising to their feet as Caitlin invited Mr. Jenkins to join her on stage. He hesitated briefly before accepting her hand, visibly moved by the ovation. Once again, tears streamed down his cheeks as he surveyed the sea of smiling faces. "Thank you," he said simply, his voice trembling. "This garden belongs to all of you. I may have planted the first seed, but it's your love and hard work that have made it flourish." His words resonated deeply, drawing murmurs of agreement from the crowd. Afterward, attendees released paper lanterns into the night sky, each one inscribed with messages of gratitude and hope. As the lanterns floated upward, carrying their collective dreams, Caitlin felt a profound sense of fulfillment wash over her. This moment wasn't just about celebrating the past, it was about looking ahead, imagining all the ways Harold's Haven could continue to grow and inspire. In the weeks following the festival, the garden's influence continued to expand. Schools incorporated field trips to the site into their curricula, teaching students about sustainability, teamwork, and the importance of giving back. Local nonprofits partnered with the garden to provide fresh produce to underserved families, addressing food insecurity in meaningful ways. Even businesses began sponsoring initiatives aimed at maintaining and improving the space, ensuring its longevity for generations to come. For Mr. Jenkins, life had taken on a rhythm unlike anything he'd experienced before. Days once spent mopping, floors were now filled with planting seeds, mentoring young gardeners, and hosting community events. He reveled in the camaraderie and creativity that thrived within the garden's borders, finding joy in nurturing both plants and people. Though he occasionally missed the quiet routine of his janitorial duties, he couldn't deny the satisfaction of seeing his dream unfold before his eyes. Caitlin, too, found herself profoundly changed by the journey. What had started as a desire to honor Mr. Jenkins had evolved into a deeper understanding of the interconnectedness of human lives. Helping him achieve his dream had reminded her of the importance of slowing down, listening, and investing in relationships. In a world often driven by competition and individual achievement, the garden served as a reminder of the beauty found in collaboration and shared purpose. One chilly November afternoon, as Caitlin and Mr. Jenkins strolled through the garden, they paused beneath a sprawling oak tree whose leaves shimmered gold in the fading sunlight. "You know," Mr. Jenkins said thoughtfully, "I used to think retirement meant sitting back and letting life pass me by, but now I realize it's about finding new ways to contribute, to leave behind something that matters." Caitlin nodded, her breath visible in the cool air. "And you've done exactly that," she replied. "This garden will keep giving for years to come. You've created something timeless." They stood in silence for a moment, absorbing the tranquility of the scene. Nearby, a robin chirped softly, hopping along a low-hanging branch. The wind rustled through dry leaves, scattering them across the path. It was a peaceful moment, one that encapsulated the essence of their journey: growth, change, and the enduring power of hope. As they turned to head back toward the main entrance, Caitlin glanced at Mr. Jenkins, noting the quiet confidence in his stride. No longer was he just a janitor or a gardener. He was a leader, a visionary, and a beloved figure in the community. And though his story had unfolded in unexpected ways, one thing remained clear. Mr. Jenkins had proven that no matter your age or circumstances, it's never too late to plant new seeds and watch them bloom into something extraordinary. As winter settled over the small town, blanketing Harold's Haven in a soft layer of snow, the garden transformed into a quiet sanctuary. The vibrant greens and fiery reds of autumn gave way to muted whites and silvers, creating a serene landscape that seemed almost otherworldly. Though the growing season had ended, the spirit of the garden remained alive, carried forward by the stories, memories, and connections it had fostered throughout the year. Caitlin visited less frequently during this time, her schedule packed, with basketball tournaments and training sessions across the country. Yet no matter how far she traveled, Harold's Haven stayed close to her heart. She often found herself reminiscing about the countless hours spent planting seeds, building raised beds, and sharing laughter with Mr. Jenkins and the volunteers. Those moments had become etched into her memory, reminders of what truly mattered: community, purpose, and the ability to make a difference, no matter how small. For Mr. Jenkins, winter brought a slower pace but no shortage of meaning. He spent his days tending to indoor seedlings, preparing soil mixes, and sketching plans for the upcoming spring. His modest home, once filled only with tools and gardening books, now brimmed with tokens of gratitude from the community, handwritten notes, paintings made by children, and jars of homemade preserves labeled "From Harold's Haven." Each item was a testament to the lives he had touched, a tangible reminder of the impact one person could have when they poured their heart into something bigger than themselves. Despite the chill in the air, the garden continued to serve as a gathering place. Families bundled up in scarves and gloves to take leisurely walks along its frost-covered paths, marveling at the stark beauty of bare branches and frozen ponds. School groups visited to learn about winter ecosystems, while artists set up easels to capture the tranquil scenery on canvas. Even in its dormant state, Harold's Haven radiated warmth, a symbol of resilience and renewal. One bright January morning, Caitlin returned home after weeks on the road. Her first stop wasn't her parents' house or the high school gym where she used to practice, it was the garden. As she pushed open the gate, she spotted Mr. Jenkins sitting on a bench near the entrance, sipping tea from a thermos. A woolen scarf wrapped snugly around his neck, and his breath formed little clouds in the crisp air. "Mr. Jenkins!" Caitlin called out, waving enthusiastically as she approached. "I hoped I'd find you here." He turned, his eyes lighting up with recognition. "Caitlin, back already? I thought you'd be off dunking basketballs somewhere," he joked, patting the space beside him on the bench. She laughed, sitting down and pulling her coat tighter against the cold. "I needed to come home, to recharge, you know, and there's no better place to do that than here." They sat together in companionable silence, watching as sunlight filtered through the trees, casting long shadows on the snow-covered ground. For a moment, neither spoke. The stillness was enough. But then Caitlin broke the quiet. "You've done so much for this town, Mr. Jenkins. Do you ever stop to think about how different everything is now because of you?" He chuckled softly, shaking his head. "Different, maybe, but not because of me alone. This garden wouldn't exist without everyone who believed in it, including you, Caitlin. You're the one who saw potential where others didn't. You're the one who reminded me that dreams don't have expiration dates." Her cheeks flushed at his words, though she tried to brush them off. "I just gave you a push. You did all the hard work." "No," he replied firmly. "It takes more than one person to build something like this. It takes trust, patience, and a willingness to let others share your vision. That's what you taught me." Their conversation shifted to plans for the coming months. Together, they discussed ideas for expanding the garden, including adding a greenhouse to extend the growing season and hosting monthly workshops on topics like composting and beekeeping. They also talked about involving more schools and organizations, ensuring that Harold's Haven remained accessible to everyone. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Caitlin noticed something tucked under Mr. Jenkins' arm, a worn leather journal. Curious, she asked about it. "Oh, this?" he said, holding it up. It's my dream book. I've been keeping track of ideas for the garden, things I want to try next year. Thought you might like to see it. He handed her the journal, and Caitlin flipped through its pages, marveling at the sketches, notes, and lists inside. Some entries detailed practical improvements like installing rain barrels or planting native species to attract pollinators. Others were more whimsical, plans for a storytelling circle, a mural wall, or even a small amphitheater for performances. Each page reflected Mr. Jenkins' boundless creativity and optimism. "This is incredible," Caitlin said, closing the journal reverently. "You've got so many ideas left to explore." He smiled wistfully. "There's always more to do. But I'm learning to enjoy the journey instead of rushing toward the destination. Life's too short to worry about finishing everything." His words struck a chord in Caitlin. In her own life, she often felt pressure to achieve, to constantly prove herself on and off the court. Yet here was Mr. Jenkins, reminding her that success wasn't about checking boxes, it was about embracing the process, cherishing relationships, and leaving behind something meaningful. Over the next few months, Caitlin threw herself into helping Mr. Jenkins bring his latest ideas to life. With the help of volunteers, they built a small greenhouse using recycled materials donated by local businesses. Inside, rows of seedlings stretched toward grow lights, promising bountiful harvests once spring arrived. They also organized a series of workshops, inviting experts to teach skills ranging from sustainable farming to herbal medicine. Attendance soared, with participants traveling from neighboring towns to attend. Word of Harold's Haven spread even further, inspiring similar projects across the region. Townspeople began referring to it as a model for grassroots community development, proof that collaboration and compassion could transform barren spaces into thriving hubs of activity. Caitlin took pride in knowing she had played a part in its creation, but she knew the real credit belonged to Mr. Jenkins, the man whose quiet determination had sparked it all. By the time spring returned, painting the world in shades of green and gold, Harold's Haven stood stronger than ever. Flowers bloomed, vegetables sprouted, and laughter echoed through the air once more. Families gathered for picnics, children chased butterflies, and neighbors exchanged tips on crop rotation and pest control. At the center of it all was Mr. Jenkins, his silver hair catching the sunlight as he bent to inspect a row of tomato plants. Caitlin watched him from afar, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Helping Mr. Jenkins achieve his dream had changed her in ways she hadn't anticipated. It had taught her the importance of slowing down, listening, and investing in people rather than accolades. It had shown her that true success wasn't measured by trophies or headlines. It was measured by the lives you touched and the legacies you left behind. One sunny afternoon, as Caitlin and Mr. Jenkins sat side by side on their favorite bench, she turned to him with a question she'd been pondering for some time. "If you could go back to the day we first met in that hallway, would you change anything?" He thought for a moment, his gaze drifting across the garden. Then he shook his head. "No," he said simply. "Every step led me here. To this moment, to this place, to these people. I wouldn't trade it for anything." Caitlin smiled, her heart swelling with emotion. "Me neither," she whispered. And as they sat there, surrounded by the fruits of their labor, they both knew they had created something extraordinary. Not just a garden, but a living testament to the power of kindness, perseverance, and belief in the impossible. No matter what the future held, Harold's Haven would endure, a beacon of hope and unity for generations to come.